Hari Om. Good evening and a very warm welcome to all of you who have logged in here today. Welcome to the third and last day of the series of talk titled Growing in Devotion, No God, No Peace, No God, No Peace by Swami Aparajitanandaji. I'm Ajay Merchant, Yagna Coordinator and a study class member. I now welcome Geeta Kothari ji, Sevika of study class and also Yagna coordinator to chant the invocation.
Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidwaram Satgurum Brahma Vidwaram.
Thank you, Geeta ji. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our Yajmans for today, Srimati Aparnaji Dalal and Sri Vijay Govindrao Kuber. Those of you who would like to update on our future programs but haven't filled out the Google registration form as yet, I request you to kindly fill out the form. We would also request you to check the Chinmaya Mission Mumbai website, where you would get a lot of information on the mission's activities, and you can also order online from the various publications, DVDs, and CDs of our talks. Those of you who wish to contribute, become Yajmans, and offer Dakshina can do so by clicking the payment link. For your convenience, the Google form, website information, and payment links are posted here on the chat. In this series of talks, Swami Aparajitananda ji is trying to give us pointers to help us cultivate unwavering devotion, which culminates in Ananya Bhakti. On day one, he beautifully expounded the meaning of devotion. On day two, he taught us how we can learn this unwavering devotion from babies and small children. And today, Swamiji, we eagerly await to hear from you on how we too can be childlike. Please note, we have a Q&A followed by Puja Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda ji's Aarti at the end of the talk. A humble request to all of you, please stay and join us for the Aarti at the end. Also, please ensure to turn off your video and mic throughout the talk so that we do not experience any disturbance. Thank you. We now begin with the talks. With pranams, over to you, Swamiji.
Hari Om. Om. Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। जय 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 जगवन्दिनी मां। जय 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 जगवन्दिनी मां। जय परमेश कृपालिनी मां। जय परमेश कृपालिनी मां। जय 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 जगवन्दिनी मां। आदिशक्ति परब्रह्म स्वरूपिणी। आदिशक्ति परब्रह्म स्वरूपिणी। जगज्जननी चतुर्वेद विलासिनी। जगज्जननी चतुर्वेद विलासिनी। शाम्भवी नोदिनी माता भवानी। शाम्भवी नोदिनी माता भवानी। शाम्भवी शङ्करी मोक्षप्रदायिनी। शाम्भवी शङ्करी मोक्षप्रदायिनी। जय 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 जगवन्दिनी मां। जय परमेश कृपालिनी मां। जय परमेश कृपालिनी मां। Humble prostrations to all of you present here. Yesterday, after the discussion, there were a lot of questions regarding the strained relationships between mother and child, especially when the child grows up. Why is it that this relationship gets strained? This was one of the common questions which we found yesterday. So I thought I will spend some time discussing this topic. One of the most difficult tasks in this world is to bring up a child, especially taking care of a newborn child. I'll say this is the most difficult task in this world. Difficult because this newborn baby demands 24/7 attention, and it can be quite tiring and exhausting. So here is a child which has to be fed every now and then. Here is a child which becomes unclean every now and then. Here is a child which keeps crying every now and then. And here is a child which is prone to all kinds of diseases because of its low immunity. So therefore, constant attention this child demands. And therefore, it is a very strenuous job, very exhausting, very difficult. And very many times the child cries in the night. And because the child is not able to communicate, The only way of communication for this child is crying. For everything, the child cries. Now, very many times the mother is not able to find out why the child is crying. She is confused. And that creates extra concern, extra difficulty. And many times the child cries in the middle of the night. So very many times the mother doesn't get even sleep throughout the night. So therefore, this is one of the most difficult tasks to bring up a child. Very exhausting, very tiring, strenuous. So therefore, what did God do? What he did is, he empowered all mothers with the most powerful tool, with the most powerful force in this world, with the most powerful weapon in this world, whatever you may say. And what is that most powerful force? What is that greatest gift which God gives to this mother so that she can fulfill her motherly responsibilities easily, effortlessly, without any strain? What is that gift given by God? That gift is called love. This love is the most powerful tool, most powerful force in this world. So, in order to empower this mother to handle or to fulfill her motherly responsibilities, God, for the time being, he gave this powerful tool to mother. Who is this mother? Mother is none other than representative of God in fulfilling the responsibilities towards child. Mother is an instrument of God in taking care of the child. So this love is given to this mother. Now, why do we praise this love so much? We praise this love so much because the moment this emotion of love gets infused into the heart of this mother, this lady completely transforms herself. That is the power of love. All noble virtues, all noble divine virtues, they get as though installed in the heart of this mother. So this mother becomes compassionate. This mother becomes forgiving. The mother becomes loving. The mother becomes enduring. All these noble virtues at a time occupy the heart of this mother the moment this love descends into her heart. Remember, all these virtues towards her own child. That's all, not towards everyone. So it is this love which enables a lady to fulfill this strenuous responsibility of taking care of the child cheerfully and joyfully. Joyously, the mother is able to fulfill all motherly responsibilities because there is this love in her heart for the child. Now, what is the mistake this mother makes? The mistake this mother makes is the love which she experiences in her heart, she thinks it is her love. She forgets that this love is coming from a divine source. She thinks this love is hers. And another mistake she makes is she thinks this child is hers. There is a sense of possessiveness. This love belongs to me. All these virtues in me belongs to me, and this child is mine. This is the mistake mother makes. What is the reality? The reality is everything belongs to the Lord. Love belongs to the Lord. It is the Lord who fills her heart with this love. It is the Lord who took care of the child in her womb. She knew only to eat, drink, sleep, eat khatta, meeta, etc. That's all what she did. Who was taking care of the child inside the womb? It was the Lord who was taking care. He was the one who was taking care of all the complications. Again, when the child is born, it is he who is filling her breast with milk. So really speaking, the child belongs to the Lord. Love is specifically given to her so that she can fulfill her motherly responsibilities. It has come from the divine. So love belongs to God, the child belongs to God. What is the mistake which this mother makes? The mother makes this mistake when she says, this love is mine, this child is mine. This is the mistake. So what is the mistake in one word? The mistake is ingratitude towards God. She becomes completely busy with the child, completely forgetting that it is the Lord who has given everything to her. So in one word, the mistake she makes is ingratitude, thanklessness. Now what happens? The child grows, and slowly, slowly the child comes to know all the weaknesses of mother. The relationship is strained, and a time comes when the child asks the mother, especially when the child becomes almost a teenager, 6th standard, 7th standard, 8th standard. When the child grows up to become teenager, a time comes when the relationship is strained. The relationship is strained because the mother becomes extremely possessive. And then a time comes when the child asks mother, what have you done to me? What have you done for my welfare? Now this I am saying because very many mothers come and say, Swamiji, my own child, my own son, my own daughter, you know what he is asking, what she is asking? She is asking, what have you done to me? You have not done anything for me. What have you done for me? Not what have you done to me. What have you done for me? What have you done for me? You have not done anything for me. Now, what is that? That is also an expression of ingratitude. Remember. Now, see this play happening. You became ungrateful to the Lord. As a result, what is the law of this universe? As you sow, so shall you reap. And now your own child is ungrateful to you. The mother's complaint is, I have done so much for the child. I have sacrificed so much for the child, and today my own child is asking me, what have you done for me? I hope you are understanding. When I give ingratitude, I get ingratitude. This is what is happening. So all the mothers, let us understand the mistake we are committing in this world. So what should a perfect mother, a satsangi mother, a spiritual mother, a devotee mother, what should a mother do? So when she observes this love for her child, she must immediately recognize that this love is not my love. She must immediately recognize the hidden hand of God behind this noble emotion called love. So when the heart is welling up with that love, maternal love, a devotee mother should understand that this love is not mine because I don't know how it is welling up. I don't know. It is definitely coming from that divine source. And this love is coming so that I can comfortably, effortlessly, joyously, cheerfully fulfill my motherly responsibilities. Bhagavan is empowering me to take care of his child. This is how a devotee mother should analyze the situation. This love is not mine, it belongs to Bhagavan. This child is not mine, it belongs to Bhagavan. My job in this world, I am only an instrument in the hands of the Lord to take care of his child. This is my job. This is my karma yoga. So what should I do as a mother? Let me convert this mothering the child as a worship of the Lord. Let me convert this responsibility as a worship of the Lord. Then what happens? You will be amazed that your relationship with your child becomes a divine relationship. Why divine relationship? Because you are bringing God into picture. Otherwise, it's a mere worldly relationship. A worldly relationship is divinized the moment you bring divine into picture. So even when you are loving your child, you are experiencing that love, but at the same time, you are just watching this love as though it is flowing from that divine source to that child. You are seeing the flow of that love, that divine flow. Stepping aside, keeping your ego aside, you are just watching how beautifully the Lord is taking care of his child through this instrument called me. The mother should observe. You should enjoy the state of being a mere instrument in the hands of the Lord when you are taking care of your child. Right? This is what a wise mother should do. So then what will happen? The relationship becomes divine. Another great advantage is you will have a healthy detachment from your child. Otherwise, generally we see a mother becomes completely blindly attached to her child. Attachment can be blind. It is always blind. Blind means what? Your thinking ability is gone because of your attachment. It is a disease of the mind. Blind attachment is a disease of the mind because it makes you blind. You fail to see the imperfections of your child, the limitations of your child. As Puja Gurudev used to say, where love is thick, fault is thin. And these are the mothers who come and fight in Chinmaya Mission Bali Vihar competitions. Whenever we have this Bhagavad Gita chanting competition, we are sure some mothers will come to fight with the judges, saying, my child has chanted so well, why you did not get prize for my child? Now, this is the result of blind attachment. And such mothers experience extreme pain because of this blind attachment. And who gives pain to such blind mothers? The very same child gives extreme pain to these blind mothers. So therefore, what happens when you start involving God in your relationship with your child? What happens is you develop a healthy relationship with your child. And when the child grows up, it is the responsibility of every mother to direct the attention of the child towards its real mother, meaning God. It is a responsibility. So when the child grows up, the child comes to know so many imperfections in mother. When the child is very small, according to the child, my mother is omniscient, omnipotent, all perfect, etc. But when the child grows, its brain also grows, ability to think grows. The child is comparing mother with so many others, and the child is observing anger, greed, jealousy, etc. All these things are natural. The child comes to know my mother has got all imperfections. At that time, it is the responsibility of the mother to turn the attention of the child to the ultimate God who is free from all imperfections. Then what will happen? The child will be grateful towards mother for showing the right direction, establishing the link of the child with the divine. And this is what we learned from Dhruva's story. Dhruva, he wanted to play on the lap of his father, but then his stepmother did not allow. So he ran to his mother, Dhruva, say, Amma, Amma, you do something. But then mother said, my dear child, I am helpless. But yes, somebody can help you. Who? God can help you. Go, pray to him. So what does Suniti do to Dhruva? Suniti directs the attention of Dhruva to the Lord. This is what every mother has to do. In the beginning, take care of the child, but understanding very well that this love belongs to God, this child belongs to God. Then what will happen? Then what will happen is you not only you perform your duties towards the child very well, but in the process of performing this duty, your mind becomes purified because you are doing karma yoga. Wherever God is involved, yoga is involved. And wherever yoga is involved, mind gets purified, you get spiritual evolution. And another beautiful thing that happens is when you start observing this love which is flowing from the divine to your child, you are like a mere flute. Flute is empty, but the music flows through the flute. In the same way, you have made yourself empty. You have made yourself egoless. So through you, the divine love flows into the child. And you are just watching that love gurgling in your heart. And you know that this love belongs to God. And then what happens? You come to know what is divine love. So just like that Lord is loving this child, that Lord loves me also. So you get a first-hand experience of how God loves us. So therefore what happens? You also grow in devotion for the Lord. Now this is called divinizing our relationship. It's a mere worldly relationship, but in and through this worldly relationship, you cultivate your relationship with God. So when we do this, what happens? All the problems this mothers undergo, it won't be there. Because now you are grateful to God, you will be amazed. A time comes when your child will be grateful to you. The child will never tell, what have you done for me? This word will never come from the child. As you sow, so shall you reap. So you are grateful to God for helping you fulfill the responsibility as a wonderful mother. So then what happens? The child also becomes grateful to you. So this is how we must handle this relationship between mother and child, and all these problems will not happen. Right, now moving further. So this is a slight deviation from the main topic. So yesterday we had seen how the child develops intense faith, intense love, surrender, etc. unto mother. This child does it by observation, analysis. Now, what are the lessons to be learned from this child? The child is absolutely egoless. What is the understanding of child about itself? The child knows, I am helpless, I am incapable, I am insignificant, nobody. What is the opinion of the child about itself? So yesterday we had seen, I am nothing, I know nothing, I have nothing, I can do nothing. This is the opinion. This is where we all have to start. This is the starting point of spirituality. The starting point of spirituality is not Brahmasmi. Aham Brahmasmi is not the starting point. The starting point of spirituality is Aham Shunyah Asmi. I am zero. I am a nobody. I am insignificant, nothing. This is the starting point of spirituality. The whole world is designed to make us realize this fact. The world is designed that way. That way, Bhagavan is extremely compassionate to make us realize our insignificance. If you just observe how we are living, there are infinite factors necessary to live on this planet, and not even one factor is in our control. Infinite factors, outside infinite factors, inside not even one factor is in our control. That itself shows that life doesn't belong to me. Life is a gift given to me. In the same way, our talents and abilities, it doesn't belong to us. It is a gift given by the Lord to us. So therefore, our starting point is Bhagavan, I am a nobody. Shunyah asmi. I am a nobody. Eradication of ego is something which we will have to do. This world is like an ICU. What is ICU? Intensive care unit. Of course, it's an ICU in the sense that Bhagavan intensely takes care of all of us. Intensely, as though we are the only one in this world. A unicellular microorganism also is taken care by the Lord with the same seriousness, with the same concern. And the most evolved human being also is taken care by the Lord. So everyone is intensely taken care. So therefore, this world is ICU. There is another meaning of ICU. What is it? Eye-crushing university. It is a university where the ego will get crushed. The world is designed that way. Like that, you know, that crushing machine, whatever you put in that machine, it crushes. It has two wheels and it keeps on revolving. It crushes everything. The same way, this world is designed to crush our ego. So what is the ideal way of living? The ideal way of living is, instead of crushing our ego, let us crush our ego. That is a painless thing. World crushing our ego is a painful thing. So let us crush our ego. Let us realize how insignificant we are. This is something which we have to do. Dasoham is something which we have to practice. Soham is something which happens by the grace of the Lord. Soham is not something which we have to practice. No. So there is something which we have to do, and there is something which God has to do. So when we do this, what is that which we have to do? Dasoham, Bhagavan, I am your dasa. When we practice this, when we practice Sharanagati, from the other side, blessing comes. What is the blessings of the Lord? That Soham experience is the blessing of the Lord. So throughout Bhagavad Gita, you will find only one message: surrender unto me, surrender unto me. Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. What is sharanam? Becoming a nobody is called sharanam. Mama maya duratteya mameva yet prapadyante. Prapatti is called Sharanagati. Sharanagati is nothing but becoming a nobody, giving all credit to Bhagavan. So this is our responsibility. This is where we have to put forth effort, where our effort should be in trying to become a nobody in our own eyes. Remember, you may be a great somebody in somebody's eyes. That is not your problem. But in my own eyes, I must be an insignificant nobody. This should be our effort. Then the other things automatically happen. It is something like sleep, What is your job? You cannot consciously sleep. That is not in our hand. But you can prepare yourself to sleep. So there are two stages. One is you can become tired and exhausted and lie down and make the bed, etc. You can lie down. That is effort from your part. And what is that grace factor? The grace factor is you go into sleep. You cannot consciously go into sleep. Sleep has to overpower you. You can't do it consciously. Here also it is something like that. Dasoham is something which we can consciously do. Soham is something which Bhagavan does from his side. Makes us experience that we are not separate from God, we are one with God. That is his responsibility. Symbolic representation of Ramayana, we'll find that. When Hanumanji comes, after going to Lanka, etc., Bhagavan becomes overpowered by gratitude. He says, Hanuman, what have you done? So much you have done. I am so indebted to you. I don't know what I can give you, etc., etc. Bhagavan was telling with tears in the eyes. And what did Hanuman do at that time? He just fell at the feet of Bhagavan and said, Bhagavan, trahimam, pahimam. Save me. You are pacing me. So there is all the danger that the ego will come up. The greatest enemy of mine is my ego. You are boosting my ego through these words. Bhagavan, save me. Hanumanji says, Bhagavan, whatever I could do, it was only because of your grace and blessings. I could see every step, your grace, how it, led me to success from one step to the other. So therefore, Bhagavan, you are the doer. I am only an instrument. He fell at the feet of Bhagavan and said, Bhagavan, I am a mere monkey jumping from one branch to another. Shakha Mrigayam. So all the glories belong to you. And Bhagavan was so happy when he heard these words. Actually, Bhagavan was testing Hanuman, his egolessness. And Bhagavan became so happy with Hanumanji, he lifted him and hugged him. Bhagavan hugged Hanumanji. Now that hugging is called Soham experience. But what did Hanumanji do to get that experience? Hanumanji fell at the feet of the Lord. That falling at the feet of the Lord is Dasoham. So Hanumanji did Dasoham, Bhagavan did Soham. Hanumanji fell at the feet of Bhagavan, Bhagavan hugged him. Now they are all very symbolic. Now just imagine, Hanuman comes and says, Bhagavan, I have cleared your path. Now you can just go and, bring Sita Mata. How stupid it would be. Suppose Hanumanji says, come on, now give me a big hug. How stupid it will be, isn't it? In fact, even the very thinking of it is so inauspicious. So therefore, let us understand this. The first step as a spiritual seeker is not aham brahmasmi, but aham shunyosmi, dasoham attitude. This is what we must cultivate. Very many people are stuck here because they don't do this. They directly want to go do that. Ramakrishna Paramsa gives a beautiful example. He says, suppose there is a servant who has served his master for so long with lot of love, etc. The servant always sits down, master sits on a top pedestal, but there comes a time when the master is so happy with the servant, he tells the servant, come, sit next to me. Isn't it? But suppose the servant goes and sits next to Bhagwan, no master will like it. So never try to start your spiritual journey with Aham Brahmasmi. Never try to start your journey with Soham. Fine, intellectual understanding is one thing, but experience doesn't start with that. So let us try to cultivate this humility. In fact, in Bhagavad Gita, you will find that when Bhagavan is enlisting all the virtues, the first one is amanitvam, absence of ego. And finally, Bhagavan says, etat jnanam iti proktam ajnanam yatatonyatha. This is knowledge. This is what Bhagavan says. If you have this virtue, then know for sure that you have gained knowledge. Knowledge is very easy. Gaining knowledge is very easy once you have this virtue. Again in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. Tesham evanu kampartham aham ajnanajam tamah nashayami atma bhavastah jnanadipena bhasvata. Bhagavan says, those people, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam, they do bhajan, surrendering unto me. Those people who do bhajan, love me, obey me, surrender unto me. Bhagavan says, dadami buddhi yogam, I give them. Now see, very clearly it is mentioned that that supreme spiritual experience is the result of grace of the Lord. It is not the result of self-effort. It comes out of grace. Teshameva anukampartham, because of anukampa. By my grace, they are able to gain this high. I light the lamp of knowledge and destroy the darkness in their heart. This is what Bhagavan says. So that is what it's Bhagavan's department to make us experience Soham. What is our department? Our field is to practice Dasoham. Okay, continuing. So this is what the child does. What is the knowledge of the child? I am a nobody. This is exactly what all spiritual seekers, we must also do. Now, the next one is, the child has needs, the child has problems, the child has pains and suffering exactly like us. We also have problems in life, physical problems, financial problems, family problems, professional problems. So many problems are there. We also have needs, food, clothing, shelter. We also have need. So what should we do? We should do exactly what the child has done. What did the child do? Child cries and invokes the attention of mother. Attracts the attention of mother. This is exactly what we also have to do. We all have needs. So what should we do? We can definitely pray and ask for help from the Lord. The child's crying is our praying. Now, there are some people who say, no, you should not ask anything from God. There is nothing wrong in asking from God. Absolutely nothing. In fact, if you need something, you must ask. Don't ask from someone else, ask from your own Lord. What is the benefit of asking the Lord, of praying to the Lord, of trying to fulfill our needs through the Lord? What is the benefit? The benefit is you get the best solution. Remember, it's your birth to put forward all your needs. It is your birthright to tell all your problems to God, because God is your creator. It is the responsibility of the creator to take care of the creation. So it is your birthright. Remember this. Just like it is the birthright of the child to complain everything to mother. Whatever the child needs, the child should approach mother. Mother will only be happy when the child comes to her. Mother will not like it if the child goes to the neighbor to ask something. Mother expects the child to come to her. In the same way, Bhagavan becomes happy when we take our problems to the Lord. What is the advantage of taking our problems to the Lord? There are so many advantages. So many. The first and the best is you get the best solution for your problem. Best solution. Because the Lord knows your entire case history. So the best solution comes from the Lord. And moreover, when you find that your problems are solved through God, what happens? Your ego starts dissolving. You know that things happen not because of my effort, my struggle, and my no, it has happened because of His grace. So what happens? Slowly the ego starts dissolving. And moreover, the faith in God increases, love for God increases, exactly like that child. Child tested its mother, and only then the child developed love and faith in mother. In the same way, when we constantly see that my problems are getting solved through Bhagavan, all my needs are getting fulfilled through Bhagavan. So what happens? Love develops, faith develops, surrender develops, devotion develops. All these virtues start developing when I take my problems to Bhagavan and when I see that all these problems are getting solved. So there is nothing wrong in testing Bhagavan. You can test. Just like that child tested mother, you must also test God. And you will know for sure that Bhagavan will pass your test. So a time comes when you will have tremendous love for Bhagavan. You will start valuing Bhagavan. Because Bhagavan is capable of giving everything to you. That's why this famous, beautiful verse in Mukunda Mala, where Kulashekara Alvar says, Vatsalyada bhaya pradana samayat artarti nirvapana audaryada ghashoshanada ganita shreyah padav prapanat sevya shripatireka eva satatam santyatra षट्साक्षिणः प्रह्लादश्च विभीषणश्च करिराट् पाञ्चाल्यहल्या ध्रुवः. A beautiful verse from Mukunda Mala. So here Kulashekara says, what is it that Bhagavan cannot give you? Sevya Shripatireka eva satatam. You must serve Bhagavan alone. You don't have to go to anyone. Bhagavan can fulfill all your needs. In this regard, Santyatra Shat Sakshinaha, there are 6 witnesses in this regard. Who are they? Prahlada, Vibhishana, Gajendra, Panchali, Ahalya, Dhruvaha. What did Prahlada get? Vatsalya. He got Vatsalya, love of a fatherly love. He did not get it from Hiranyakashipu, but Bhagavan replaced that love. What did Vibhishana get? Abhaya Pradana Samaya. Bhagavan made him free from all kinds of fear from Ravana. Kairat, when you are afflicted with pain, sorrow, etc., like Gajendra, Bhagavan removed that affliction. Audaryat, Bhagavan goes out of the way to fulfill the needs of his devotee. Who is the best example? The best example is Draupadi, Panchali. At that time in that assembly, all her husbands were become useless. The other elderly people like Drona, Bhishma, useless. King Dhritarashtra, useless. Nobody was there to help her. And then she cried out, Bhagavan, save me. And then what happened? A miracle happened. What is that miracle? Bhagavan took the avatar of Vastra. So it is called as Vastravatar. Krishnavatar happened there as Vastravatar. Meaning Bhagavan breaks the laws of his nature if needed, in order to take care of his devotee. Now, this is called Audarya. Goes out of his way. The best example is Draupadi. Agharshoshanat, if you have done sins, Bhagavan washes away all sins. What is the best example? Ahalya. And Dhruva, he has been blessed with so many things. Bhagavan created a separate world for him called Dhruvaloka. So the point is, what is it that Bhagavan cannot do for you? So therefore, you don't have to go to anyone. You just seek Bhagavan alone. This is the point. But stupid people we are. Here is the best solution for all your problems. But what do? Instead of making Bhagavan the first priority, we make him the last resort. Because in this world, there can be very many solutions to one problem. There can be tamasic solution, there can be rajasic solution. So many solutions are there. What do? We try to get solution from the world, completely ignoring the Lord. This is a mistake we do. And that's why there's another beautiful verse which says, Nathena purushottame trijagatam ekadhipe chetasa sevye swasya padasya datari sure narayane tishthate yam kanchit purushadhamam katipaya gramesha malparthadam sevaye mrugayamahe naramaho mudhavarakavayam. So here Kulashekara says, on one side is Bhagavan, the Lord of the universe, the Supreme Self, Trijagatam Ekadhipe, the Lord of the three worlds. And he is ready to give himself to his devotees. On one side is this Bhagavan, most compassionate, most loving, ready to give himself. But what do? Yam kanchit purushadhamam, some what we call mean, corrupt, low politician, who is some head of some village, some little influence, some little power. There is some politician there, and what do? We crave to serve such third-rate mean politician, forgetting this Lord. Such foolish, wretched people we are. Completely ignoring God, we try to get the problem solved through corrupt means, through illegal means, through immoral means, by holding on to some influential people in the society. Such foolish people we are. This is something to be noted. The child will never go to anybody else. The child will go only to the mother. Because the child knows the best solution comes only from mother. This is something we have to learn. There may be so many ways in which we can solve our problems, worldly ways, through bribe and through corruption, etc. Never make use of any of these ways. The best way is to take your problem to God. Never resort to tamasic ways or rajasic ways. Always resort to sattvic ways. Take your problem to God alone. Otherwise, what will happen? All the other solutions are problematic solutions. What do you mean by problematic solution? It appears as a solution, but it will take you to bigger problem. That is called problematic solution. So you have a small problem. You want to solve that small problem. So therefore you go to some solution. But what does that solution do? It takes you to a bigger problem. As they say, from the frying pan to the burning fire. You have some problem, you approach some gundas in the society, rowdies. Of course, your problem is solved, but later on, those people will keep in touch with you and you are in trouble. Or you solve your problem through some influential politician, but then later on, the politician, to get his work done, he starts approaching you. It's a bigger problem. The point is this: may you solve your problem only through God. This we have to learn from the child. Right. So in the process, what happens? In the process, our love, our faith, our trust, our surrender, everything starts growing, because every time we find that our problems are getting solved through Bhagavan. Right. Now, there is another very important thing which we will have to keep in mind. What is that thing? Bhagavan has different approach to different devotees. So there are devotees who are beginners, who have just entered into the path of devotion. Bhagavan's attitude towards them is different. And there are advanced devotees who have been in this path for quite a long time. Bhagavan's approach towards them is also a little different. This is something which we have to understand. It is exactly like a mother whose approach is different towards different children. So let us say she has two children. One is the younger one, the other is the elder one. Her approach is very different, isn't it? You will find that whenever there is a tussle between the younger and the elder, the mother always takes the support of the side of the younger one. Suppose the elder and the younger, they are fighting for a toy, mother will interfere and she will take the side of the younger one, isn't it? And she will scold the elder one. You are elder one, you are supposed to take care of this fellow, you are supposed to sacrifice. See her approach. She is very tender and soft and yielding to the little one, but the grown-up one, she is totally different. So the elder one, even if the younger one beats the elder one has to remain quiet. The elder one has to sacrifice. The elder one has to give up. The elder one has to surrender. The elder one has to take care of this little one also. Because if something goes wrong, the mother will scold only the elder one. So see the different approach of this mother towards her different children. Bhagavan's approach is also like that. As far as a beginner devotee is concerned, he is generally an Artha Bhakta. Artharthi Bhakta means what? He comes to God, his faith is not strong, his love is not strong. He wants something from God. He doesn't want God. He wants something from God. Such devotees are called Artha Bhakta, Artharthi Bhakta. There is some pain, he wants to get rid of pain. There is something which he desires, he wants that. They are all grosser devotees, immature devotees, beginner devotees. So what is Bhagavan's attitude towards them? Whatever they ask, generally it is given. They ask something, Bhagavan gives them. Exactly like the mother being soft and tender to the younger ones. Whatever is asked, it is given. But as the devotee grows and becomes mature, becomes little established in the path of devotion, especially when the devotee never leaves his sadhana, morning and evening he has time for the Lord. He does his meditation, puja, prayer, japa regularly. Then understand that he has become little advanced and mature. Bhagavan's attitude towards such devotees, it is little different. Very many times when devotees make certain, wish list, when the devotee asks, very many times you will find Bhagavan will not give them. For example, suppose the devotee is sick and suffering from some disease. Bhagavan will not remove the disease. He will not cure. Why? Because there is a higher blessing which Bhagavan wants to give such devotees. The disease remains, but Bhagavan gives something higher. What is that higher? Bhagavan gives an ability to endure the suffering. Now here we have to be a little careful. Bhagavan will not remove the suffering. Bhagavan gives strength, mental strength to endure suffering. So we who are matured devotees, advanced devotees, we must be able to recognize the blessing of God when we are able to peacefully endure a disease, a suffering, a calamity. We must recognize the blessing of the Lord. A gross devotee cannot recognize his, according to his understanding, if I pray, my disease should go. That is the only thing which he can appreciate, understand. He is a baby. But a mature devotee, an advanced devotee, Bhagavan has greater expectation from an advanced devotee. Because he is closer to God. He is able to tune to God. He is able to understand God. So very many times you will find Bhagavan will not take your problem. Bhagavan will make you go through the problem. And what is expected from you, you have to understand the hidden blessing of God. What is the definition of yoga? Samatvam yoga uchyate. Equanimity of mind is yoga. So Bhagavan trains the advanced devotee in cultivating balance of mind. So when in suffering, in calamities, in tragedies, when you find that your mind is peaceful, when you chant the name of the Lord, understand that peace itself is the blessing of the Lord. You are trained to make the mind peaceful even in such calamitous situation. Try to recognize the blessing of the Lord. In Bhagavatam it is said, Bhagavan says, when I decide to bless my devotee, I take away everything from him. Very scary statement for a beginner devotee. Because when everything is taken, he has no choice but to single-pointedly hold on to me. And it is at that time he understands my value. When there are worldly supports, we don't understand the value of divine support. So therefore, what does Bhagavan do? He removes all worldly supports so that you have nothing else to hold on other than the divine. Exactly like Draupadi's case or Gajendra's case. When you hold on to the divine, you get that peace and then you understand the value of Bhagavan. Very many times Bhagavan does it. When Arjan Dev was tortured by the Mughals, I hope you know the story. I don't want to describe it. Making him sit on what you call heated iron sheet and pouring boiling water on him, etc., etc. They were torturing him. At that time, Arjan Dev said, Bhagavan, your name is so sweet. This is the only thing which is giving me peace of mind. This is the only thing which is giving strength. How sweet is Bhagavan? Arjan Dev could experience. We are also chanting Bhagavan's name, but there is no sweetness there. So this is what Bhagavan does to the advanced seekers. Very many times vasanas are there deep down. So advanced devotees, Bhagavan deliberately sometimes make the devotee go through difficult times so that these vasanas are exhausted. These vasanas are burned. Sometimes somewhere deep down some ego is lurking, that the ego has to be crushed. So the devotee has to go through some humiliating experience. Because the moment a devotee becomes an advanced devotee, Bhagwan starts working for his liberation. Understand this. Bhagwan thinks this fellow is fit for liberation. He's fit to become free from birth, death cycle. So then Bhagwan starts working in that direction. Teshamaham samudharta mrityu samsara sagara. So in order to lift him from this ocean of change, ocean of birth and death, Bhagwan started working in that direction. So Bhagwan makes the devotee capable of shifting his attention from the miserable body to the blissful self. Now, this is the greatest blessing. When we are able to shift our attention from the imperfect world, from the imperfect body, when we are able to shift the attention from this imperfect world to the perfect self, this ability to shift our attention and thus to abide in the self, this is the greatest blessing which Bhagavan can give to the devotees. So understand to recognize this blessing. Arjuna's story you must be knowing, Bhagavatam. Arjuna somewhere had this ego that I am the greatest archer. That ego was crushed. So when he was coming back, Krishna had already left the body. He was coming back. He was given the responsibility of taking care of Dwaraka women. So he said, on the way, a handful of cowherd boys defeated Arjuna. And Arjuna comes to Yudhishthira and cries and weeps like a child. He says, look at this. The chariot was the same. Arjuna, same. Gandiva was the same. Horses, same. Everything was same. But absence of one man made all the difference. A handful of cowherd boys defeated me. And saying this, he broke down. And it is said, when he became utterly egoless, and through that crying, his heart became very pure. All the sins were washed away. Imperfections were washed away. It is at that time that he remembers the teaching of Bhagavad Gita. And it is said, Arjuna enters into Samadhi. He enters into Samadhi. So this is what Bhagavan does. For the advanced seekers, he makes them fit to realize him. So therefore, don't always expect that when you pray to Lord, he will listen to you. Not necessary. He will do what is good for you. And finally, he will ensure that you are able to firmly get established in the self. He will ensure it. And what is the end result of getting firmly established in the self? The end result is Nandati, Nandati, Nandati eva. Yasya Brahmani Ramate Chitam. Nandati, Nandati, Nandati eva. This is the end result. To what extent that strength is, that peace is. To give you an idea, let me tell you one or two stories. So here was this king, along with his army, he was going, conquering village after village. So all the villages had fled. But under a tree, there was one saint sitting there. So the king went to him. Oh, he was fearlessly sitting, this saint. The king said to the saint, do you know who I am? I can chop your head without blinking even once. The saint fearlessly looked into the eyes of the king and said, do you know who I am? I can get my head chopped even without blinking once. Now just imagine, chopping somebody's head is very easy. But getting the head chopped with absolute fearlessness, without getting disturbed, that is something great. That king hung his head in shame and went away. Now, this strength is what devotion gives. This is the result of unwavering devotion. Atmana vindate viryam vidyamrutamashnude. There is another beautiful story. So there was this saint who was tortured. So he was tied to 2 iron rods and he was made to lie down like a stretcher, 2 iron rods, and he was tied. So he was lying on his back and they took this rod and they just placed it above a furnace. Fire was burning from below. They wanted to torture him to death. They wanted to burn his body alive. So they just held that rod and he was kept on the fire. Kept means above. So the fire was burning from below and his back was getting burned. After some 5 minutes, they found that this man is very peaceful. He was not screaming, shouting, etc. After 5 minutes, this person, this saintly person, turns to these people and say, now it is properly cooked. Now you can turn. Like dosa, you know, one side is cooked, then you turn the other side. Just imagine he is on fire. Jokingly, he is telling, this side is fully cooked. Now you can turn the other side. These people were stunned. Can you imagine the amount of peace of that person? Even when the body is getting burned alive, absolutely no disturbance. This is the wonder of devotion. As Narada Bhakti Sutra says, Yab labdhva puman siddho bhavati, amruto bhavati, trupto bhavati. Bible also says this, the peace which passeth all understanding. So we have lot of live examples where whatever is said in the scriptures, it is 100% true. So therefore, if we can develop this unwavering devotion by following the footsteps of little children who are the happiest in this world, we can definitely attain that highest state. This yajna comes to an end. I sincerely express my gratitude to Pujya Swami Swatmananji and the entire South Mumbai Chinmaya Mission team for beautifully organizing this yajna and for giving me an opportunity to speak on such a wonderful topic. I also express my gratitude to all the devotees who have been listening for these 3 days and who have been enthusiastically participating in these question and answer sessions, etc. I'm sorry that there are so many people who want to ask questions, but because of lack of time, we are not able to take up all questions. But then we have nothing to worry because this is age of technology. The wonder of wonder is remaining in your room. You can attend any class anywhere in the world. What a wonderful thing. So therefore, if at all you think that, my service is necessary, you can always contact me through my email ID, etc. We can always have sessions or classes or satsangs or whatever. So may we all develop this unwavering devotion. In this regard, I sincerely invoke the grace of the Lord and blessings of Pujya Gurudev. Now open to question answer session. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Pranam Swamiji. That was a wonderful series of talk, and I'm sure that the listeners would have immensely benefited and grown in devotion. We now have a 10-minute Q&A. Kindly raise your hand, and when your name is called out, unmute and ask your question.
Priyanka ji, please unmute and ask a question.
Hari Om, Swamiji.
Hari Om, Ma, Hari Om.
Yeah. Swamiji, actually, you mentioned that, children should be directed towards the divine, like in the story of Dhruva,
Yes.
right? But now what is happening, Swamiji, I don't know with others, but, sometimes when we direct our own children towards God, especially when they have entered that teenage kind of an age, or even before that, pre-teens also, they do not really listen to you, and they end up making fun that, what is this you're saying? It is not logical. So how should we deal with that?
If you don't learn lessons, you will be taught lessons. That is the nature of this world. When earthly mother becomes helpless, divine mother takes over. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So don't worry, everything will be fine. A time will come when they become parents, then they will understand all this. The amount of torture the children give to parents, they get it back when they become parents. So therefore, do your best and leave the rest to God.
Okay. Thank you, Swamiji.
Yes.
Miss Shloka Shastri, please unmute.
Hari Om, Swamiji,
Hari Om,
very
Ma.
enlightening session. I just wanted to know, you mentioned that, when God is expecting you to perform higher, or he thinks you can meet his expectations, he gives you a little more of troubles to handle.
Yes.
So at that time, sometimes you just feel so pressurized. God is, behaving like this with you. So how do you just keep up the faith at those times? Because sometimes it becomes so difficult that you wonder whether there is a Lord at all.
Yeah.
So in those situations, especially, how do you handle the times? Keep up your faith in the Lord that he will pull you out.
Amma, I will give you a suggestion which all the saints have given, and that is just chant the name of the Lord. Can you do this?
Sure.
It is something very easy. You just chant the name of the Lord, and as much as possible, try to listen to that chanting of the name. Throughout the day, when you are doing whatever you are doing, let chanting continue, and then just see the state of your mind. You will be amazed that mind will be peaceful. Mind has developed a kind of strength, because remember, if God has put you in a certain situation, it is because you can handle that situation. God is confident that you can handle that situation. Your job is only one: never leave God. And the easiest way of not to leave God is at least chant his name. That is enough.
Okay, Swamiji.
Test it and then see the result for yourself.
Okay.
Yes.
Sure. Thank you very much. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Miss Archana Natraj, please unmute and ask your question.
Hari Om. Can you
Hari
hear
Om.
me?
Yes.
Thank you very much for this session. This was really a blessing. It was truly bliss. My question was, you gave the example of when the mother tells the elder child to give up for the younger child. And similarly, we do it for the devotees as well. Typically, the elder child feels like the mother is being very unfair to the child. And the
Yes.
same thing happens when you are a devotee as well, that you feel like I have done all this and this is not fair to me. And that is at that chance is when even somewhere our bhakti kind of, a little bit shaky situation. Now, if we are lucky and we manage to stay at the God's feet, then we can go further. But it does happen that sometimes that's when we lose that courage
Yes.
and we stop praying or we stop doing our japa.
Yes.
So at that point, is it
Mm.
our prarabdha that helps us go forward? Is it, I mean, what, I don't know how we react at that time. What makes us
Who
react
told you?
at that?
Who told you that you are an advanced devotee?
No, I'm not saying any advance. I'm not any,
See,
not me. I'm
see.
saying even advanced.
Remember, the moment you are complaining and grumbling
Huh.
because of all the tragedies, understand you are not that
Not a good
elder son,
devotee.
you are
Correct.
the younger son. You are the younger son.
Correct. Correct. No, very correct.
Ah.
But
So
got it.
therefore, first of all, you look into your own mind. Am I grumbling and complaining and the faith is less and everything you understand you are the younger one?
Correct.
Now what is your question?
So at these times, how does this younger son, when the younger son has to come back to his path, like I know you said in the previous answer also that the lessons will be taught to us.
Yes.
So at that point, is it that we put forth that effort or does God pull us forward? What was the second part of that question? As in, even coming back to that path, is it determined by our karma or I don't know, I'm just a little...
In this world, everything is your action only. Everything.
Okay.
Everything is decided by your action. You are given full freedom. You can properly use your freedom. You can misuse your freedom. Everything is karma only. Don't think that God is doing something. No, He is ever there with outstretched hands. He is telling, come to me, come to me. Now the child has to walk to mother. No.
Correct.
The mother wants the child to walk. The mother says, come, beta. Now the child has to lift and walk. You understand? The grace is always there. We have to invoke the grace through our self-effort.
Okay.
Ball is in our court. Yes.
Correct. No, I think that you're right. The first part is that we have to remind ourselves we are the younger child. Then the rest will come in place. Thank you so much.
Ms. Madhulika, please unmute and ask your question.
Hari Om Swamiji. As in the session, there was a point where you said that being when God wants, like when we are undergoing some miseries or some difficulties in life, we should understand that the God has seen the strength in us and He sees that we are capable to handle it, and then at that point of time He is there with us. But
yes.
how can we understand that, okay, this is the point, till this point, okay, I should get going doing my work, but after a certain point we get so disheartened and leave that, oh no, up to, like, I'm unable to walk alone anymore, and I don't know God is with me or not, because I'm not seeing that something fruitful is happening or something positive is happening. But at the back of the mind, we are sure that He is there with us. But at that moment, we think that no, you're not there. We start complaining. We start crying that, oh Lord, you're not there for us. So how should we handle that emotion at that certain point of time?
The very fact that you are asking this question shows that you can handle it, Amma. The very fact that you are attending this satsang shows that you can handle it. God can never make a mistake. What I suggest is, have you done whatever you can do? Before coming to the conclusion that God is not listening to me, and have you done what you can do?
Yes, I.
No.
Okay, Swamiji.
As I told just now,
Haha.
chanting the name of the Lord is something which everybody can do. Are you doing it? Remember, 24 hours, tell me how many minutes you are doing it.
When we are really in great pain,
That is
that
very bad.
moment we
That
don't
is very
do.
bad. Only when there is grief, you remember God. Huh?
No. When I'm in lot of grief, then I don't remember him. I start complaining.
Now you will find that there are so many times where you waste your time in front of TV or some, what do you call that, WhatsApp or this or that. So much of time you are wasting.
Yes, Swamiji.
Why can't you make use of the time in developing your relationship with God? Why
Yes,
can't you
Swami.
usefully utilize this time? Because this relationship is the most important relationship in your life. Why can't you invest your time and energy in this relationship? Why do you waste your time?
Yes, Swamiji.
That's what I said. Are you doing what best you can do? Our answer will be no. So therefore, we have no right to say, Bhagavan, you have been cruel to me. We have no right to say.
Right, Swamiji. But you beautifully explained the relationship between God and us and the mother and child, because as being a child, as we totally rely on the mother, but we don't totally surrender to God in that manner, being an adult.
Yes.
So it's really so heart touching that if we at for one moment also, if we develop that relationship with God, we don't
Yes.
have to worry about anything in our lives.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Thank you so much, Swamiji. Thank you
Hari,
so
Hari,
much.
Hari.
Hari Om.
Hari Om, Hari
Hari Om,
Om.
Swami.
Hari
Hari
Om.
Om.
Hari Om.
No questions, Swamiji. It was only to greet you. Pranams. It was nice to watch you and hear you. We are really benefited by this insightful and thought-provoking session. And also all the talks that are being uploaded on the Chinmaya Mission Mangaluru channel, really benefited by those talks also. Thank you so much, Swamiji. Hari Om.
Okay. Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Hari Om.
This is me, Shruti, again with a question today as well. Swamiji, my question is a little different. Devotion, I feel the grace of God for the last 2 years. I got this opportunity. I live in New Delhi and I got a chance to attend Vedanta classes, which are being conducted in Bombay thanks to technology. I got introduced to someone who introduced me to reading the Sai Satcharita every Thursday and to invoke the blessings of Sai Baba.
Yes.
My question is, Swamiji, I am a very confused devotee. When someone says, okay, my family was suffering from corona, someone came and told me, recite the Hanuman Chalisa, that will help. I started doing that. Someone says, do this on a Thursday, I start doing that. There are so many different paths and so many different gods, Swamiji, that I am now confused. I don't know how and where to focus my devotion and attention. So I was hoping for help on that from Swamiji, that is it okay to be doing worship to a particular god in our time of need and then move to someone else and then someone else? Or should we be concentrating on a particular deity, a particular idol, and that would help us better?
Amma, first of all, your fundamental should be very clear. Tell me how many gods are there in this world?
Swamiji, I am not reached that advanced level yet. I do not know.
Fundamental should be very clear. Now,
one Param Brahman, Swamiji, one Para Brahman.
So I suggest, now that you have so many questions, I suggest that you take up the study of Bhagavad Gita seriously.
Yes, Swamiji.
Because all your questions will be cleared when you take up the study of Bhagavad Gita. So it's very clearly said, Bhagavan is only one. There can be very many forms and names and so many things. God is only one, and that is a very consciousness in you. Once your fundamental is clear, then all these questions get answered. Otherwise, you will get caught up in so many gods. Ganapati is there, Hanuman is there, and Devi is there, and Sai Baba is there. Where all will you do? What all will you do?
Yes, Swamiji.
Stick to one God, one mantra, just like digging a well. You will not keep on digging 100 places. You know, nothing will come. Dig
Yes,
one place. Then you get water, isn't it? So in the same way,
Yes, Swamiji.
invest in one place. That's called single pointed. Ananya Bhakti means that single pointed. Stick to one. Then all your doubts will get clear. Understand there is only one God, and that is every self in you. So I suggest study Bhagavad Gita seriously.
Thank you, Swamiji. Hari Om.
Hari Om, Hari Om.
Hari Om, Swamiji.
Hari
We
Om.
have time for all the questions. There are 5. Should we ask them?
It's left to you, Amma. I am available.
Okay. We'll take Mahadev Ranganath ji.
Ha.
You can unmute and ask.
Hari Om, Swamiji.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. My question is, the child loves the mother because he physically see and touch.
Yes.
She is in physical form. Mother is in physical form.
Yes.
God is not seen and experienced by us.
Yes.
But Guru says there is God. But I am unable
Yes.
to experience. Then
Yes.
how can I love?
Very good question, Amma. Now, God has also given you brains, no? Poor child doesn't have a brain.
Yeah.
But as you grow up, you have a thinking ability, capacity is there. So why don't you use your brain and infer that there is God? As I told you, there are infinite factors which are necessary to keep us alive on this planet. How can infinite factors come together unless there is an intelligent principle behind? Now, this is called inference. Also, all the scriptures unanimously say that there is God. So, Shruti, Yukti, Anubhuti, all of them say that there is God. So, therefore, there has to be God. Poor child, it has no brain. But you have a brain. You have an intelligence. Intellect is given. Make use of the intellect and infer that there is God. Of course, that is the greatest challenge. I understand.
Thank you, Swamiji. Thanks a lot.
Hari
Anamika ji.
Hello.
Hari Om.
Hari Om, Swamiji.
Hari Om.
First of all, thank you for the great sessions we had. So I think maybe if I, what do you say, introspect a bit, maybe I'll get my answer. But I think it is a little bit to do with what Archana had asked, right? That where is my prarabdha and where is the devotion? What part of my life is prarabdha and what part of my life is a result of my devotion? That I think is a question that has been plaguing me for some time. That was one question. And the second question was it was surprising for me to hear you say that ask shamelessly, okay? Because somewhere my journey has taught me to just be grateful for what I have and to always accept to that surrender. So again, ask shamelessly and surrender are two different concepts which I'm trying to, make sense of.
Let me answer this question, Amma. See, our prayer should be, Bhagavan, this is what I want. But if you think that it is not good for me, then don't give.
Okay.
You understand? Exactly like the child. Child asks mother, mother, I want this. But when the mother says, no, I will not give, then child accepts. Because the child knows that mother is my not just wish fulfiller, mother is also my well-wisher. So when the child has fever, it wants to eat ice cream, mother says no, then the child remains quiet because the child knows that mother is telling no for my welfare and well-being. So therefore, nothing wrong in asking, but give freedom to Bhagavan to decide whether to give you or not.
Okay, fair enough.
This is what you have to do. And remember, let us not try to copy these Mahatmas. The Mahatmas are great. They are excellent communication with Bhagavan. So they will not ask anything because they know that Bhagavan knows my need before I know my need. So they will not ask anything. But let us not compare ourselves with their state.
Okay.
So therefore, ask when you want to ask.
Okay, makes
Nothing
sense.
wrong.
Makes sense.
Yes.
Thank you, Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Ashwika ji, please. Ashwika ji, please.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Hari Om.
Swamiji, I'm truly blessed, truly grateful to be part of today's session. Thanks to my mom. And I've learned a lot from you, Swamiji, today. And this is going to stay with me for this lifetime. Swamiji, I have two questions. The first one is, you spoke about, I am Shunyashmi.
Correct.
I am zero, I am insignificant, I am a significant nothing.
Yes.
How can we practically apply this with kids, Swamiji? Can you elaborate on a daily, like a practical basis for this, please?
Applying it to kids.
Yes, with kids, like between parent and kids.
Remember, it is not to apply on someone, it is to apply on yourself.
Okay, Swamiji.
I am a nobody. It is not to teach, hey, you are a nobody. No.
Sure. As a mother, how can I apply it, Swamiji?
As a mother, know that you are a nobody. That this love for your child is from him.
Okay.
You are an empty flute through which the music of the Lord is flowing.
Perfect. Sure, Swamiji.
Yes.
Swamiji, another one is that how do I get back to this belief? Like, you know, there are times every morning I pray that I should operate from this truth that I am. I should operate from, you know, this true self. But then again, during the passage of the day, I deviate. I, you know, get into the worldly conversations. Sometimes, you know, then I realize, then I come back and I'm like, you know, when I contemplate by the end of the day, I realize this is not how I wanted to do things.
Yes.
So again, between one phase, you spoke about 3 phases, moving between, sometimes I feel very peaceful, but sometimes again, I get those emotions. So how do we, definitely I'm praying to, you know, Bhagwan, that please give me that strength. So whatever I do it from this center, do it from as a surrender to you, be an instrument and do everything from that. But as an instrument, I don't want to scream at someone or don't want to, you know, criticize someone. So how do we deal with this?
So you are saying that you are not able to hold on to that state.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
So it comes only with abhyas. Abhyas means practice. It is exactly like jogging, Amma. First day when you jog, within 2 minutes you are tired and exhausted, isn't it?
Yes.
You can't run for more than 2 minutes. When you try, first day, you can't. Every day, little you practice, and suddenly you find yourself after so many days, you are able to run continuously for 1.5 hours. Isn't it? If this is true with the body, it is true with everything else. So in the path of devotion also, in the beginning, stamina is not there, concentration is not there, devotion is not there. But as you keep practicing, you start developing all these abilities. That is why constant sadhana is necessary.
Makes sense, Swamiji.
Yes.
Swamiji, what is mind, Swamiji?
What is mind?
No.
Mind is nothing but flow of thoughts. Simple definition.
Sure, Swamiji. Thank you, Swamiji. So grateful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Shilpa ji, please unmute your mouth.
Dr.
Charusula,
yeah.
Yes, Amma. Hari Om, unmute.
Hari Om, Swamiji. I just wanted to thank you. The session was very nice. And as another person told, I have been listening to all your talks, and today's session was really beautiful, all the 3 days.
Okay.
So thank you so much. Hari Om,
Okay.
sir.
Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari
I think that's all the questions for today.
Om. Okay.
Thank you for the explanation given by you, Swamiji. On behalf of all
I
of
was
us.
the last person.
Oh, sorry. Is there another question? I thought that was the last one. Okay, go on.
Last one. Go ahead, please, Ajay.
Okay, so shall I continue? Thank you for the explanation given by you, Swamiji. On behalf of all of us who logged in here today, I would like to express our deepest gratitude and thank you for giving us the opportunity to hear from you. It was beautiful and inspiring series of talks. To all the participants, please remember that all these talks will be available on the Chinmaya Mission YouTube channel. One last announcement, we have a series of talk, Spiritual Strength in Difficult Times. Do we have the flyer? By Swami Swatmanandji, starting from tomorrow, 25th June to 29th June. The entry is free, but registration is compulsory. Please register at the link given here in the chat. We look forward to seeing you all again for our future events. I would once again like to thank Swamiji for this wonderful talk. We could see from the response that people have really enjoyed this series, and we look forward to welcoming you again, Swamiji. Our thanks to the Yajmans of today, Srimati Aparna Ji Dalal and Shri Vijay Govindrao Kuber. A warm thanks to all the members, the family members of Chinmaya Mission for the work that they have been doing behind the line. And last but not the least, this wonderful audience. Now we shall have the Aarti of Pujya Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda Ji. Thank you. Hari Om.
आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की दिव्य रूप मूर्ति करुणा की आरती सद्गुरु की चरणों में उनके शांति समाए शरणागत की भ्रांति मिटाए पाप ताप संताप हरण की आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की आरती सद्गुरु की वेद उपनिषद गीता को गाया धर्म सनातन फिर से जगाया शुद्ध नीति प्रीति शंकर की आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की आरती सद्गुरु की सिद्ध बाणी की तपोभूमि में नित्य विराजे गुरु हमारे भक्त हृदयानंद स्रोत की आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की दिव्य रूप मूर्ति करुणा की आरती सद्गुरु की आरती सद्गुरु की
ॐ पूर्णमद पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शांति शांति। हरि ओम। श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम।